The underestimated species, the HSS Defiance, hung in Earth's orbital shipyard, its sleek obsidian hull absorbing, rather than reflecting the sunlight that bathed the facility. Unlike the bulky utilitarian vessels that comprise the rest of humanity's modest fleet, the Defiance was elegant, almost predatory in its design. Most observing aliens dismissed it as decorative compensation for Earth's technological inferiority. They couldn't have been more wrong. Commander Sarah Chen floated through the vessel's command deck, her magnetic boots disengaged as she inspected the final calibrations before tomorrow's shakedown cruise. After 15 years of classified development, the Defiance was ready. Whether humanity was ready for the consequences of its creation remained to be seen. Final checks on the Nexus core are green, Commander, reported Lieutenant Keto, his fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Quantum entanglement matrix is stable at 99.7% efficiency. Sarah nodded. And the adaptive shield harmonics, synchronized to all known sulfuri energy signatures. If their weapons match their surveillance vessels, we'll be ready. The sulfuri Imperium had been expanding through the galaxy for centuries, methodically absorbing or eliminating other civilizations. Their organic synthetic hybrid ships resembled massive crystalline insects, housing technology that most species couldn't comprehend, let alone counter. They had encountered humanity 7 years ago, briefly scanning Earth's defenses before departing without communication. The Galactic Council, an alliance of advanced species that had maintained an uneasy peace with the sulfuri, had warned Earth about these reconnaissance missions. The pattern was familiar: observation, assessment, and if a species was deemed technologically insignificant, eventual conquest. They think we're primitives, General Harris had told Sarah when she was assigned to the Defiance project. And technologically speaking, we are compared to them. But they're making one critical mistake. What's that, sir? Sarah had asked. They're judging us by their standards. The sulfuri evolved in a resource-rich system, never facing true extinction threats. Humanity clawed its way up on a planet trying to kill us at every turn. We've been on the brink so many times that we've learned to think differently. The general had walked her through the secret facility beneath the Mariana Trench, where the Defiance's experimental systems had been developed. The Nexus core doesn't just bend the rules of conventional physics, it breaks them entirely. But it's unstable, unpredictable. No sulfuri would ever consider using something so dangerous. But we would, Sarah had realized. When survival is at stake, humans have always been willing to take risks that seem insane to others. That's our edge. Now, as Sarah completed her inspection, Earth's early warning system activated. A priority alert flashed across her neural interface. Sulfuri vessels entering the solar system. Not surveillance ships this time. A battle group consisting of 12 vessels, including a Dreadnought-class warship. All personnel, battle stations, Sarah commanded, magnetic boots engaging as she took her position in the command chair. Initiate undocking sequence and power up the Nexus core to standby. Within minutes, the Defiance detached from the orbital station, its experimental propulsion system humming to life as it accelerated toward the incoming threat. Earth's defense fleet, 20 conventional warships, scrambled to form a defensive perimeter. Admiral Reyes' weathered face appeared on the main display. Commander Chen, hold position with the reserve forces. The Defiance is too valuable to risk in a first contact scenario. With respect, Admiral, the Defiance was built for exactly this scenario. Negative, Commander. We'll attempt communication first. The Council ambassadors advised that the sulfuri sometimes perform show-of-force maneuvers as a prelude to diplomatic contact. Sarah's instincts screamed that this was no diplomatic mission, but she complied, positioning the Defiance behind Earth's moon, out of direct sensor range of the approaching aliens. Through the ship's enhanced observation systems, she watched as Earth's defense fleet arranged itself in standard formation. A communication beam was directed toward the sulfuri dreadnought. No response came. Instead, the alien vessels accelerated, their crystalline structures shifting into attack configurations. The dreadnought extended vast wing-like appendages that began to glow with accumulated energy. "They're charging weapons," Sarah warned, but it was too late. The Xalthori struck without warning or declaration. Beams of coherent energy lashed out, slicing through 3 Earth vessels before their shields could fully engage. The remaining ships returned fire, their conventional railguns and plasma torpedoes dissipating harmlessly against the aliens' advanced shielding. "Admiral Reyes, request permission to engage," Sarah transmitted, watching in horror as another human ship disintegrated. "Negative, Commander. Fall back tow." The transmission cut off as the Admiral's flagship erupted in a ball of expanding plasma. Sarah clenched her jaw, making the hardest decision of her career. "All hands, prepare for combat engagement. Lieutenant Cato, bring the Nexus core to full power. Navigator, plot an intercept course that will place us behind the Xalthori formation." "Ma'am, at full burn, they'll detect us before we can get into position," the navigator warned. "They won't be looking for us," Sarah replied. "Their sensors are focused on the main battle. Besides, they've dismissed human technology as primitive. Let's use that arrogance against them." The Defiance accelerated silently, its revolutionary propulsion system leaving no energy signature as it curved around the engagement zone. The Xalthori continued their systematic destruction of Earth's fleet, clearly unconcerned about any potential threat the primitive humans might pose. By the time the aliens detected the approaching vessel, the Defiance was already within optimal engagement range. "They've spotted us," Cato reported, reading energy buildups in their rear guard vessels. 3 destroyers breaking formation to intercept. Sarah smiled grimly. "Perfect. They're sending their smallest ships to deal with us. Tactical, prepare the Nexus core for first stage deployment. Target the nearest destroyer." On the view screen, the approaching Xalthori vessels resembled predatory insects, beautiful and terrible in their crystalline perfection. Energy began to pulse along their hulls as they prepared to fire. "They're hailing us," communications announced. "Text only. They're demanding immediate surrender." "No response," Sarah ordered. "Nexus core status. Ready for deployment, Commander. But I should remind you that this system has never been tested in actual combat conditions." "Noted, Lieutenant." "Fire." For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Defiance emitted no visible beam or projectile. Then, space itself seemed to shudder around the nearest Xalthori destroyer. The alien vessel's crystalline structure began to vibrate, resonating at increasing frequency until fracture lines appeared across its hull. Within seconds, the destroyer shattered into billions of fragments, its molecular bonds disrupted at the quantum level. Silence fell across the Defiance's command deck. "It worked," Cato whispered, almost disbelieving. The Nexus core actually worked. The remaining Xalthori destroyers halted their approach, clearly reassessing the threat. Before they could react, Sarah ordered, "Target the second destroyer." "Fire." Again, the invisible force reached out, and again, a Xalthori vessel disintegrated. Now the alien fleet's attention had shifted entirely. The dreadnought and its remaining escorts abandoned their attack on Earth's surviving ships and turned toward the Defiance. "They're bringing their full force to bear on us," Tactical warned. "Multiple energy signatures charging." "Evasive maneuvers," Sarah commanded. "Bring us around to heading 047 Mark 326. Prepare for multiple simultaneous Nexus core deployments." The Defiance responded instantly, its revolutionary drive system allowing maneuverability that no other human vessel could match. Energy beams from the Xalthori ships sliced through the space the Defiance had occupied moments before. "They still don't understand what they're dealing with," Sarah realized. "Nexus core to full power. Target their flagship." As the dreadnought brought its main weapon to bear, the Defiance unleashed the full potential of humanity's desperate gamble. The Nexus core tapped into the quantum substrate of reality itself, creating a cascade effect that no conventional shielding could stop. The massive Zalthori vessel trembled, its beautiful crystalline structure vibrating with increasing violence, until, with a silent flash, it disintegrated into cosmic dust. The remaining alien ships scattered, attempting to retreat. Several managed to jump to faster-than-light travel, but 4 more fell to the Defiance's revolutionary weapon before they could escape. When it was over, 7 of the 12 Zalthori vessels had been destroyed. Earth had lost 17 ships and over 11,000 personnel. As the Defiance returned to Earth orbit, Sarah knew this was only the beginning. The Zalthori wouldn't underestimate humanity again, but neither would humanity back down. The war for survival had begun, and humanity had just revealed its greatest weapon, the willingness to risk everything in the face of extinction. The Reckoning. 3 weeks after the first engagement, the Zalthori returned in force. Sarah Chen stood on the Defiance's observation deck, watching the holographic display showing 67 Zalthori warships emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Their formation was different this time, more cautious, more respectful of the threat humanity now represented. They've adapted. Admiral Zhao, the newly appointed fleet commander, observed grimly. Those dispersed formations will make it difficult to target multiple vessels with the Nexus core. Sarah nodded. Following the initial battle, she had been promoted to captain and given permanent command of the Defiance. The vessel had undergone hurried modifications, improving the stability of the Nexus core and expanding its targeting systems. But Sarah knew they were still vastly outnumbered. We've also upgraded our conventional fleet weapons based on data from the first encounter, Zhao continued. Our regular ships should be able to at least damage their shields now, but the Defiance remains our only weapon capable of assured destruction against their vessels. The core can't sustain extended operations, Sarah warned. After 20 minutes at full power, the quantum instabilities become dangerous to our own ship. The Admiral's expression remained impassive. Then we'll have to make those 20 minutes count. The rest of the fleet will engage to draw their fire and create openings for you to exploit. Sarah's tactical officer, Lieutenant Commander Kedo, approached with a data tablet. Captain, we've analyzed the Zalthori fleet composition. Their flagship is different from any vessel we've encountered before, nearly twice the size of the previous dreadnought and exhibiting unusual energy signatures. Sarah studied the readings. They've created something specifically to counter the Nexus core, she realized. Look at these harmonic dampening fields. Can we penetrate them? Zhao asked. Unknown, Admiral. We'd need to get much closer than I'm comfortable with to be certain. A priority alert interrupted their discussion. The Zalthori fleet had changed course, bypassing the main Earth defense perimeter. They were heading directly for Mars and the outer colonies. They're avoiding direct engagement, Sarah realized. They'll destroy our infrastructure and colonies first, force us to spread our defenses thin. Zhao nodded grimly. A siege strategy. Captain Chen, take the Defiance to Mars immediately. I'll coordinate the main fleet to protect Earth and deploy what ships we can to the outer settlements. Within an hour, the Defiance was accelerating toward Mars at full speed. Sarah had ordered the Nexus core to remain in standby mode, conserving its capability for the coming battle. The 22 ships assigned to Mars defense were already engaging the Zalthori vanguard, 15 vessels that had separated from the main alien fleet. We're picking up distress calls from the Martian colonies, communications reported. The defense fleet is taking heavy losses. Time to intercept, Sarah asked. 12 minutes at current velocity, Captain. Sarah studied the tactical display. The Martian defense was collapsing faster than expected. By the time they arrived, it might be too late for the colonies. Increase to maximum sustainable velocity, she ordered. Divert power from everything except life support and the Nexus core standby systems. The ship surged forward, pushing against the limits of its experimental drive. Warning indicators flashed across control panels as the structural integrity field strained to compensate. Captain, I've been analyzing the data from the Sulfuri flagship, Kato said, approaching her command station. Their new dampening field has a resonance frequency that cycles predictably. If we time the Nexus core discharge precisely, we might find a momentary window of vulnerability. How momentary? Approximately 1.7 seconds every 3 minutes. Sarah's eyes narrowed. That's not much of a window. No, ma'am. But it might be our only chance against their flagship. As the Defiance approached Mars orbit, the situation below had deteriorated catastrophically. 11 Earth vessels had been destroyed, and the remaining ships were fighting a desperate holding action. 3 Sulfuri destroyers were systematically bombarding the Olympus Mons colony dome, their energy weapons punching through the reinforced shields. Tactical, target those destroyers, Sarah ordered. Sequential Nexus core bursts, minimal power to conserve our operational window. The Defiance announced its arrival with devastating efficiency. 3 quick pulses from the Nexus core reduced the attacking Sulfuri vessels to expanding clouds of molecular debris. The remaining alien ships immediately broke off their assault on the colony and turned to face the new threat. They're coordinating to surround us, Tactical warned. Detecting energy buildups in all vessels. Evasive pattern Delta, Sarah commanded. Bring us through their formation at maximum speed. Target any vessel that presents an optimal firing solution, but conserve core energy for the flagship. The Defiance dove into the heart of the Sulfuri formation, its impossible maneuverability allowing it to weave between energy beams that would have vaporized any conventional vessel. The Nexus core fired selectively, destroying 4 more alien ships before the Defiance broke through the other side of their formation. The main Sulfuri fleet is changing course, Strategic reported. They're accelerating toward Mars. Estimate arrival in 27 minutes. Sarah made a quick calculation. Not enough time for reinforcements from Earth. We need to finish this group and be ready for the main force. A direct hit rocked the Defiance, sending crew members sprawling across the deck. Adaptive shields holding at 62%. Damage control reported. They've modified their weapons' frequencies to partially penetrate our defenses. Roll out secondary shield harmonics, Sarah ordered. Keep them guessing. For the next 15 minutes, the battle raged across the Martian orbital space. The Defiance moved like a predator among the Sulfuri vessels, striking precisely before ghosting away. 7 more alien ships fell to the Nexus core, but the continuous operation was taking its toll. Core stability at 73% and falling, Kato warned. We have approximately 11 minutes of operational capacity remaining. The tactical situation had improved. Only 3 Sulfuri vessels remained from the original 15. But the main fleet, including the massive flagship, would arrive before the Defiance could return to Earth for repairs. Sarah made her decision. Finish these 3 quickly, then take the core offline to cool for exactly 12 minutes. When the main fleet arrives, we'll have one shot at their flagship. The remaining Sulfuri vessels fell quickly to targeted core pulses. As the last one disintegrated, Sarah ordered, full shutdown of the Nexus core. Divert all available power to repairs and shield regeneration. The Defiance took up position behind Phobos, using the Martian moon for cover as the crew worked frantically to prepare for the coming onslaught. From their hiding place, they watched as the main Sulfuri fleet emerged from hyperspace, a constellation of deadly crystalline structures spreading across Martian orbit. At the center floated the flagship, a vast geometric construction that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Its surface rippled with energy patterns that suggested capabilities far beyond anything humanity had encountered before. Nexus core restoration at 94%, Kato reported. Structural analysis of the Sulfuri flagship complete. We've identified what appears to be their command nexus. If we target that specifically, we might trigger a cascade failure. Sarah studied the tactical display. They're spreading out to begin systematic bombardment of Mars. They don't know we're here yet. Captain, I've plotted an approach vector that will bring us directly in line with their flagship's vulnerable point, the navigator said. but will be exposed to fire from at least 20 support vessels along the way. Time until their shields cycle to the vulnerable frequency. 4 minutes, 17 seconds. Sarah took a deep breath. All hands, prepare for final engagement. Divert all power except minimal life support to propulsion, shields, and the Nexus core. We get one shot at this. The Defiance burst from behind Phobos, accelerating directly toward the heart of the Sulfuri fleet. For a crucial 3 seconds, the aliens seemed surprised by the suicidal charge. Then, as one, their vessels opened fire. Energy beams lashed the space around the Defiance as it twisted and corkscrewed through the deadly barrage. The ship's shields flared continuously, struggling to adapt to the diverse attack frequencies. Shields at 47%. Damage control reported as another hit rocked the vessel. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. Emergency containment holding. Distance to target. Sarah demanded, gripping her command chair as the ship lurched violently. 60,000 kilometers in closing. Navigation responded. 50 seconds to optimal firing position. The Sulfuri flagship now focused its attention on the approaching human vessel. Its surface rippled as massive weapon arrays aligned toward the Defiance. They're preparing their main weapon, Tactical warned. Energy readings off the scale. 30 seconds to optimal position. Navigation counted down. 25. 20. The flagship fired. A beam of coherent energy unlike anything humanity had ever witnessed lanced toward the Defiance. The ship's shields flared blinding white as they struggled to disperse the impossible power. Shields failing. Damage control shouted over the screaming of stressed metal. Direct impact in 3 seconds. Evasive hard to port. Sarah commanded. The Defiance veered sharply, the energy beam grazing rather than directly impacting the ship. Even this glancing blow tore away a section of the outer hull, exposing multiple decks to vacuum. Casualty reports coming in, Keto reported grimly. 37 crew members lost in that hit. Optimal firing position in 5 seconds. Navigation announced. 4, 3. Nexus core at maximum power, Keto confirmed. Target locked on flagship command Nexus. 2, 1. Mark. Fire, Sarah ordered. The Defiance unleashed the full potential of the Nexus core, directing its reality-warping energy at the precise moment the Sulfuri flagship's defensive field cycled to its vulnerable frequency. The invisible force struck the alien vessel's command center with devastating precision. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, fracture lines began to spread across the massive ship's crystalline surface. Unlike the previous engagements, the flagship didn't immediately disintegrate. Instead, its structure seemed to be collapsing inward, as if being drawn into an internal singularity. "What's happening?" Sarah demanded. "Their power core is destabilizing," Keto explained, staring at his readings. "It appears to be some form of contained quantum singularity. Our attack disrupted the containment field." "Get us away from here, maximum speed," Sarah ordered. The Defiance turned and accelerated away from the disintegrating flagship as energy began to pulse outward in concentric waves. The nearest Sulfuri vessels were caught in these pulses, their structures vibrating apart just as they had under the Nexus core's attack. "The reaction is cascading through their fleet," Tactical reported with awe. "Their ships are networked to the flagship's core systems. As it collapses, it's pulling them all into the same quantum resonance." From the relative safety of 20 million kilometers, the crew of the Defiance watched as the Sulfuri flagship imploded in a blinding flash, creating a momentary distortion in space-time that pulled in over 40 surrounding vessels. The remaining alien ships, cut off from their command structure, fell into disarray. Some attempted to retreat, while others continued fighting with diminished coordination. Earth's reinforcement fleet arrived 30 minutes later to find the battle essentially over. Of the 67 Sulfuri vessels that had entered the solar system, none remained intact. The cost had been high. 28 human ships destroyed and 3 Martian colonies severely damaged. but humanity had survived. In the aftermath, as the Defiance limped back to Earth for repairs, the Galactic Council sent representatives to formally acknowledge humanity's status as a major power. The Xalfori Imperium, for the first time in its long history, sent diplomats rather than conquerors to negotiate terms. Sarah Chen stood in the council chambers as the Xalfori ambassador, a crystalline entity that communicated through light patterns, addressed the assembly. "We miscalculated," the alien acknowledged. "We assessed your technological capability accurately, but failed to account for your species' unique approach to existential threats. Where we seek perfection before implementation, you embrace imperfection and risk. This difference in methodology led us to underestimate you, a mistake we shall not repeat." Admiral Zhou leaned towards Sarah and whispered, "Is that an apology or a warning?" Sarah watched the light patterns shifting across the ambassador's crystalline form. "Both, I think. They respect us now, but they're also studying us more carefully." "The balance of power has shifted," the Admiral observed. "What happens next?" Sarah thought about the Defiance, already being upgraded with improvements based on the battle data. She thought about the quantum physics breakthroughs that had emerged from the Nexus Core project, and the new vessels being designed with these principles in mind. "We keep advancing," she said finally, "but we also remember what makes us different, what makes us human. We took risks they wouldn't consider and won against impossible odds. That's humanity's greatest strength." As the diplomatic proceedings continued, Sarah knew that the galaxy would never again underestimate the species that had emerged from a small blue planet on the spiral arm of an unremarkable galaxy. The ship they had ignored had destroyed an entire fleet, and in doing so, had announced humanity's arrival on the galactic stage. The message was clear: ignore humans at your peril.